Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar run for the UKV. Have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, because we are going to see some really warm and humid air move up in the next 12 hours or so, and that's just round one. As round two of warm and humid air could be coming as we head into next working week. And as we have the GFS, GM, Eastern WF and the ensembles, that air mass moving in is looking pretty ridiculous for the time of year, well above average, almost 10 to 15 degrees above average in some places, a proper summer heat wave like Airmass. Now, there may be a bit of controversy saying this could be an October heat wave, because technically a British heat wave has to breach the Met Office official thresholds, which, for example, in the southeast is 28 degrees. Now, we're highly unlikely to get anywhere close to that, maybe 24 or 25 at best, so technically speaking, we won't be seeing a heat wave, but there is, compared to average, we're going to be well above 10 plus degrees above. So you could consider it a heat wave, depending on how you categorise it. But regardless, the next week to 10 days is looking really quite warm and humid. Not only is it looking quite warm and humid, there could also be some quite heavy rain around in places as well, as we are going to see that warm southerly wind move in, but it's because we're seeing a low pressure system out to our west pushing it in, so we could even see some thunderstorms and some heavy rain at times as well. So yes, we're heading into the middle month of autumn, but the overall upper air temperatures and weather patterns are looking more like it's August once again. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see we've got this big wedge of rain across parts of Wales, northern England, Northern Ireland, and parts of Republic of Ireland, and heading into Scotland now. Now, this is a warm front, so ahead of it we've got some cool air, but behind it we've now got some really warm, sticky air. So this warm, humid air mass moving in from the south. Upper air temperatures could get as high as 13, 14 degrees in the next couple of days. And then as we head into the latter part of next working week, I said could get up to 16 or 17 degrees. Absolutely ridiculous upper air temperatures. So if you are to the south of this weather front now, across parts of southeast England, you'll probably notice it's a little bit muggy out there. I wouldn't say it's warm, I wouldn't say it's like summer, but you're definitely not going to be particularly cold. Now, if you're under this rain, even though it's a warm front, so warm air is coming in behind the rain, it is going to feel pretty miserable. And we can see that on the 2 metre temperatures this afternoon. You can see more blues appearing underneath the rain band, but as this clears, most of these areas tomorrow could, as I said, get up towards the 20 degree mark. And that's the same towards the south and southeast. Look at that, we're seeing some hints of oranges appearing. And I know coming off the back of summer, and of course we saw insanely hot conditions in early September, this isn't that great. But remember, we're heading into October now. We're getting to the point where sunset will start being 5, 6 p.m. We'll be looking at our first sort of frost of the season coming up very, so statistically, could be now in the very near future, the first frost of the season is. So it is pretty ridiculous seeing some of these late summer or sort of mid-autumn temperatures. And you can see where the air mass is coming from, parts of Spain, southern France, Portugal and North Africa. And these areas are potentially going to see record-breaking temperatures. For the UK, unlikely, but at the same time, the air that we are getting is going to be, it's going to be proper summer air masses. Now, if you look at the UKV, you can see the precipitation moving in over the course of this afternoon, slowly heading northwards and eastwards, and there could be a bit more rain as we head overnight, as well as we sort of see the tail of that weather front moving in. But most areas tomorrow will be relatively dry through the afternoon, bit of sunshine around, and a very warm air mass, so temperatures could get up towards 20, 21, 22 degrees, as we'll see in a minute. As we head into the middle of next week, Monday could see more rain moving in, as eventually cool air tries to push in off the Atlantic. And for a time next week, for a couple of days, we are going to go cooler. We're going to see a fresher Atlantic air mass, and you can see that through Tuesday, likely into Wednesday as well. And you can see that with the weather fronts moving in off the Atlantic, with showers around, nothing too insane, but a pretty average North Atlantic airstream. But you can see the cloud builds towards Thursday, wind direction changes, and that's because a southerly wind is starting to arrive. You can see that high pressure out to our south and east, low pressure out to our north and our west. Wind direction coming from a southwesterly here, and we'll be veering more to a southerly as we head towards next weekend. You can see that here, high pressure, low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south, slowly putting that southwesterly wind in. Now, if you look at the air masses, you can see the very warm air mass moving in at the moment. As I said, 13, 14 degrees we're looking at. But as we progress through the rest of this week, you can see eventually the air masses gets degrade away by Tuesday, Wednesday, and it starts to warm up a little bit on Thursday, but the proper warmth is still to our south. We'll be able to see that on the longer range runs in a minute, as that really does move in. A run like the ECMWF today is ridiculous. It's absolutely cooking areas of northwest Europe. UK probably just on the periphery of getting absolutely cooked because we are so far north that we're getting to the time of year where it is extremely difficult to be seeing these warm temperatures. Not only are the daylight hours shorter, the actual sun strength is is weaker as well. So yeah, seeing anything above 20 degrees is pretty ridiculous as we head into October, and we could even get a set up to 25 degrees. Now the temperatures this afternoon, you can see maybe an 18 or 19 in the southeast. Under the rain, more like 12, 13. But into tomorrow, look at 3 p.m, temperatures 20 to 22 quite widely across parts of England. Could still get towards the mid to high teens further northwards and westwards as well for the first day of October. As we head towards Monday, again, you see the afternoon, 22 degrees in the southeast, but you see a bit more of a contrast towards northern Wales and northwest England, as we see a weather front starting to move in. And by Tuesday, most areas in slightly fresher air, more like 17 or 18 in the southeast, and slowly decreasing. And by Wednesday, again, could see a 17 or 18, but mostly mid-teens, more towards average, but probably still slightly above average for the time of year. Now, we can't pinpoint it on this run because it's too far in the future, but as we head towards the end of the next working week to the weekend, we could be seeing, as I said, those temperatures climbing to as high as 25 degrees. And you can see the dew points for the middle of the week are not too bad. Over the coming hours, it's actually going to get quite muggy. Look at the dew points, 16, 17 degrees, and they could get even higher, as I said, into next weekend. Now, we've talked a lot about it, this warm air mass, so let's actually see it at play on the latest GFS. Now, you can see the southerly wind at the moment, but it really only lasts about 48 hours before getting pushed away by a westerly flow. Beyond that, another high-pressure system builds into our southeast, and we pull up another very strong southwesterly. Now, the only thing with the GFS is a little bit more progressive lower pressure. So we see the very warm, muggy air mass move in. You can see this here. The 10-degree isotherm moves in. Maybe even the 15-degree isotherm gets in. But the low pressure in the Atlantic is much more progressive. Therefore, there'll be a lot more rainfall. And as I said, could be some thunderstorms and very unsettled conditions. This is more of the pessimistic runs. Most runs are going for something slightly drier than this, so we have to take that into account. But again, we can't discount this run as is an option. And you see by next weekend it's actually extremely unsettled before high pressure attempts to build back in the longer term, and actually develops a little bit of blocking to our north with an easterly flow. Could start to turn a bit fresher, maybe frosts across Scotland, so it'll be interesting to see if that develops in the longer term. But it's so far away, there's no real point concentrating on it. But regardless, you can see the upper air temperatures are almost 10 degrees above average in the next couple of days, cooler, and then back towards maybe 6 to 8 degrees above average. But if you think the GFS is looking warm, the next two runs are out of this world, really. Now, if you run through the GM, again, you see a brief southerly wind over the next couple of days. It will be warm, but nothing ridiculous. And as we head towards Thursday and Friday, look at that. A long-fetched southerly flow from the mid-Atlantic down towards North Africa and Spain, the Azores, and it's all due because these low pressures diving in the Atlantic, bringing quite cold air down into the North Atlantic, but bringing up some absolute boiling air mass for the UK for this time of year at least. Look at that, the 15-degree isotherm consumes most of the British Isles there. Insane upper air temperatures, and look at the temperature deviation, 12 degrees above average for pretty much the whole of the British Isles. Absolutely insane air mass here from the GM. Eventually it does get pushed away, so it only lasts a few days, but we are likely to see 25 degrees within this for much of the south, before eventually the westerly flow does progress back in, low pressure finally arriving. Now, if you look at the ECMWF, this is even more extreme, especially with its longevity. We can see again brief southerly wind over the next couple of days. Westerly winds come in for most of the middle of the week, and then the southerly winds build back in. And look what happens towards the weekend. A very strong southerly wind pushes in. And if you have a look at the upper air temperatures, look at that, the 15-degree consuming us, not for 2 or 3 days like the GEM showed, but for maybe 4 or 5. Look at that, 15 grass firm just hangs around all the way to day 10 towards the 10th of October. And if we more insanely look at the temperature deviation, you can see you're slightly above average, getting up towards 10 to 12 degrees above average, and that 10 to 12 degrees above average region is there for about 3 to 5 days. So an insane air mass. I must, put the caveat in there that we're not going to be seeing anything completely ridiculous at the surface. There's no 30, 35 degrees, what we'd expect if we saw these charts in the middle of summer. We're looking more at 25 degrees at best, and widely 20 degrees. So I must put that out there. We're not looking at anything completely out of this world. We're not looking at summertime temperatures, but we are looking at pretty ridiculous warmth for early October. Now, if you look at the ensembles, you can see this well on the latest GFS. Briefly warm upper air temperatures around the 12 or 13 degree mark for about 2 days coming up. A drop through the middle of the week. A few showers around. This is for London, so less showers. Around average air masses, but still probably slightly above average at the surface. Then we see another big spike up towards the mid-teens or even high teens from some of the runs for a couple of days towards the end of the week, and then it slowly tails off. As I said, the GFS operational run is very much more of a pessimistic run here. You can see the thicker green line. It doesn't get anywhere near as high as most of the ensemble members, and it drops off much faster. So that's why I put a bit of a caveat when we had a look at that GFS. It doesn't follow what the majority of runs were showing. Now, the 2 meter temperatures, you can see low 20s in the next couple of days, and then there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of scatter here, but some, as you can see, getting up towards the low to mid 20s here. So we'll have to confirm that nearer at the time, but yeah, looking very warm. And you see the dew points very high in the next couple of days, dropping considerably down towards 6 or 7 degrees, and then going high once again as we get towards the end of this upcoming working week. Now, finally, the eastern WF is even more sure on a very insane air mass moving in. See around 14 or 15 degree upper air temperatures in the next couple of days, then dropping down towards average for a couple of days, and then look once again well above average, well over 10 degrees above average. Some runs almost 15 degrees above average for about 3, maybe 4 days there, before really only slowly tailing off as low pressure runs in off the Atlantic with lots of precipitation. Now, if you compare it to Glasgow, because of course much further northwards, you can see there is going to be a very insane air mass, but unfortunately most likely coincide with a lot more rainfall being close to those lows out to our west. So all areas are likely to go well above average, all are likely to be fairly muggy, fairly warm, especially in the south. But unfortunately the north is likely to see quite a bit more rain than any areas further southwards. But of course, that is just the climatology, unfortunately. That's just the geography of the areas. Further northwards, you're closer to the lows. Further southwards, you're closer to the European high. So that is just, unfortunately, how it does play out. If you look at the London 2 meter temperatures, though, you can see the next couple of days, we're looking at 22, 23 degrees possible, then down towards the mid-teens again, 17, 18 degrees, and then spiking once again towards the end of this upcoming working week, towards next weekend. Back up towards the low to mid-20s, 25, maybe even a local 26 or 27 is possible for only slowly tailing off beyond that. So it is looking pretty ridiculous for some of these temperatures in the next couple of days. By no means is it an official heat wave, but you could regard it as an October heat wave, an autumnal heat wave, where we're seeing upper air temperatures around 10 to 15 degrees above average. It's going to be pretty warm, it's going to be pretty muggy, and some people probably won't even notice it, just being a bit of an extension of summer, until you look down at your phone or your watch and realise it's almost the middle of autumn. And as we start to head towards November, we'll start to hear rumblings about northerly winds and snow showers and things like that. So yeah, very interesting seeing what's happening right now. Real proper extension of summer conditions, and we'll just have to see exactly how high we do get. And I'm sure there'll be more interesting temperature records, upper air temperature records as well, and European records as we do progress towards the middle of the week, as we do get a little bit more assurance on what the exact upper air temperatures and synoptic patterns will be. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you're looking forward to some more colder weather, some wintry weather, some proper autumnal weather, then not looking likely in the next week or two. But if you're looking for a bit more of an extension of summer, still like to wear a t-shirt and shorts around, then yeah, it's looking pretty decent in the next couple of weeks for 20 plus degrees for quite a long period of time, especially for the south, with a little bit of a blip this upcoming working week for a couple of days. But apart from that, it's really quite warm and muggy, like we're sort of an average August or July temperatures. As I said, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.